Hi, and welcome to the podcast Identities, Roles to Souls, a new podcast. I'm Shelley Karpati. I'm here with my first guest, Virginia Shepley, who is an artist that I found on Instagram. And I really wanted to talk with her today because I've been admiring her art for a long time. And it really connects me in my heart in terms of connecting. Spirituality to real life. And I do believe that in today's world, we have to connect with one another more because of such a world of intensity and divisiveness and turmoil. I really, the only thing that we can change is really ourselves. And so I decided that why not start talking to people about their creative process, their spiritual connection to it, and how they've used their different identities to to melt away those identities and be in flow and connecting to their inner selves and their inner world. So with that, Virginia is a uh, transcendental, in my opinion, transcendental artist that really connects the worlds of mind and body and spirit. And I just want to hear about her process today. So welcome, Virginia. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so I would love to know a little bit more about your background as an artist. Like where did you start? Were your parents artists? Where you grew up and things like that. So tell me a little bit about how you got started and what it was like growing up in terms of your artistry.
I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri. My parents were not artists. My mother was a poet, so she was always very interested in the arts, and so I was always exposed to them. And I was a creative person, so I did a lot of drawing and fooling around with different media, but I did not take it seriously when I went to college. I I actually started really focusing on my artwork probably in my like around age 35. And I was living in California at the time. And um, I started making art really as a way to help me with some deep inner work, some psychological work that I was doing to heal some trauma. And so I started taking classes, and what I realized was I started learning from my own work. Like I would just make a painting, and then when I was looking at it afterwards, I would feel like I had some sort of insight into whatever I was working on or just life in general. And so I kept doing it, and I really was doing it on a very personal level for a long time. And then in 1998, I applied to the Arts and Consciousness program at John F. Kennedy University, which is in the Bay Area. That program was in Berkeley, California at the time. And and when I applied, I wasn't really sure what I was getting myself into. I just knew that art making and spirituality were and consciousness were really linked for me. So I got my degree in 2001, and I kept working. I started sort of trying to build a career in Oakland, and then my mother, it was aging and the Bay Area was so expensive, and so I decided to move to North Carolina in
Yeah.
2005. And
Before we get to that part, I would love
yeah,
to know a little bit more about what kind of work were you doing before age 35, before you started painting?
mm, I it was more kind of work was I doing? It was more psychological work. It was more figurative and more based on personal experience, sort of trying to navigate emotions or situations through my artwork.
Great. And so how did you know, like, were you were you painting by yourself? Like, how did you know what medium to use? Did you, what kind of, what did you start with in terms of, was it just drawing with pencil? Did you use paints?
I started taking classes, and I was working with a teacher who um, sort of started me out with oil pastels and oil sticks and acrylic paint.
Mhm,
And so my medium really hasn't changed that much,
mhm,
other than I've just fallen in love with paper. So almost all my work is on paper.
mhm.
So,
Okay, great. And then, when did you realize that, it was, you were ready to like leave that all that work, that you were doing before into becoming a full-time artist? Because it's so hard to survive, as an artist today. It's not really conducive. And you had mentioned, yes, you had to move because the Bay Area is so expensive to help take care of your mom. But when did you realize, I guess, that you were onto something and you knew that this is what you wanted to do? For your life's work.
I would say it was at the time that I went back to school, when I realized that the spirituality component and the art making really went together for me. And I guess I didn't really have lofty ideals of having a huge career. My idea was um, really to explore it for myself to the extent that I could. And if
Mhm.
if I was making work that appealed to others, then that would just be a bonus for me.
Nice. So
Yeah,
what do you define spirituality to be?
interesting question. Um, for me, it's what touches your heart and what makes you feel connected, to our world around us and to yourself and to others.
Mhm.
Um, I'm very influenced by Eastern religion. I'm a Buddhist, and um, I don't know, just the idea of oneness and wholeness and um, unity.
Mhm.
That's really what spirituality means to me. And I feel like you, there are lots of different kinds of spirituality, but I feel like at their base, they all share that same sort of goal and desire to connect in that way.
Beautiful. Yeah, I that totally resonates. Did you have to leave a background of like what you were brought up in to find that oneness? Everybody, usually is brought up with, some form of religion or traditions that inform them and then evolves as adults if people decide to take that path. Like, what was that like?
I did not have a very religious upbringing. As I said, my mother was a writer. She was very interested in lots of different things. So I was exposed to a lot of different kinds of thought. She was really interested in Carl Jung's work. So I just, as a young person, I was kind of exposed to a lot of just different types of thinking.
Yeah.
And so then when I actually learned probably the most about spirituality while I was in my program.
Hmm. How did they make that connection? Well, first, before we get into that, I would definitely want to know about that. But I definitely can resonate with the whole Carl Jung thing, in terms of connecting psychology to spirituality. It's been a pretty profound, connection for me as well. And with my Buddhist background, I see how healing it can be. Like there's just like a great path, of instructions of how to tame or befriend your inner world and be able to take that inner world and um, make it into flow of your self so that you can express it out on your canvas. Do you meditate before you begin your process of painting, or what is that like for you? And how does this psychology and spirituality meet on the canvas?
Well, I use my artwork as a way to kind of navigate my life in general. So I use it to help me sort of understand emotions or situations. But I find that now I use it more as setting an intention for what I want for myself and for everyone.
Hmm.
So it started when I first started working, it was much more personal and much more about sort of, I don't know, just trying to figure out what I needed to know
Hmm.
to kind of get through things. But as I continued to work, it kind of became more, um, I want to say like idealistic or more intense, like worldly intentional. I think of my work almost as spiritual activism now, where I feel like I'm putting it out there with the intention of hoping that other people will respond, and
Yeah.
that they can see what I see in it. I
Hmm.
don't take a lot of ownership for it. I don't feel like, it's me having profound thoughts for other people. I feel like that's the spirituality part for me, is that
Yeah.
I think it comes from somewhere else. I feel like it's I just open myself to it, and then somehow through the process of drawing, it's really when I'm drawing that I find that the inspirations come. So there's
Hmm.
something about having my hands on the paper and erasing and drawing, and I don't know what it is. It's a kind of a physical experience of give and take on the paper, and then these images come, and
Yeah.
yeah,
That's beautiful. I mean, that really encapsulates flow. That's really being in flow and connection with the divine, or whatever you call the unseen
right.
forces that are available to all of us. We just have to get quiet enough to, allow that to happen, I think. So, like, I would imagine that while these, um, shapes and colors and ideas come through you, um, it sounds like it's just this amazing co-creation where you're almost like you're able to shut out the world around you and you know yeah, is it like are you able to shut out the world around you and you don't hear anything, and you're just producing in this quiet way?
Interesting questions. I don't know that I really shut everything out.
Uh-huh.
I feel like the impulse usually starts with a very mundane something,
Mhm.
something going on in my life where, I will go to my studio and just sort of start um, thinking about that, and
Mhm.
then thinking about ideally where would I want that to go, or
Mhm.
what would be the healing of that, or what would be an ideal manifestation of this situation. And that's really where I start now, is thinking of what's what's the healing side of it, or what's um the balancing side of it. I feel like
Yeah.
all of the work is really just about balance and trying to
Yes.
find that balance, so we're over here in the physical world dealing with 10,000 things, and then I feel like there's our inner world, which is more deeply connected, I think,
Yes.
to
Yes.
everyone and everything. And so, if I can that's always what I'm trying to do is find, find that balance of those two things and be able to live with one foot in the physical world, but also one foot in the inner world.
Right, right. Yeah, that definitely resonates for me as I've looked at your art. I see a lot of balance. I see like the above and below. I see the rebirth coming through the earth. I see light and darkness, just this balance of seeing, and then you tie it together in this oneness of it all belonging and how it can, cohesively flow into one another. And yet sometimes your shapes are they have some, sharp fine lines, but at the same time there always seems to be some kind of overlap or integration of the different parts. So that's definitely coming through. um and did you feel like yeah, so I'm wondering, do you believe in synchronicities? Like, do things happen after you've had a session of painting? Do you go out into the world and you see, themes that kind of show up that match the work that you're doing?
I would say I believe very much in synchronicities. I don't know that it so much happens with my artwork, really.
Yeah.
I
It's
mean,
just
I guess I feel like yeah.
Yeah, that's
No, no,
okay. Yeah, no, that's
no.
all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty wild. Like for me as a writer, when I'm thinking about something and suddenly and I think like the same thought of flow, starts to show up in other places, or someone starts talking about it, or just like my visual sphere of things like start to um overlap, and I feel like messages are being sent to me to like say, okay, yeah, go ahead, like go in that direction, keep exploring that, keep being curious. And I think that's something that's so important in life in general, is just to keep being curious and keep being open, and still to allow for, possibilities to exist. I just feel like there's just so much opportunity to see the beauty in life, and and it's so hard to um, keep going in that direction sometimes. So I'm wondering if there's like any magical moment in your life that verified or acknowledged you in a way that felt like you were on the right path.
Well, I would say, it's been my experience with Instagram. It has really been a very profound thing for me. When I first started, it was during COVID,
Mhm.
and I thought I have been making artwork for 25 years or whatever, and it sits in a drawer. And I thought I'm done. I'm done. I'm just going to start posting my work. And so I really had yeah, no lofty goal other than to just put myself out there. And it
Mhm.
scared me to death. It
Yeah.
was a very vulnerable place to be, to put my work out there. But then little by little by little, people started responding to it. And I felt like they were responding to what I would most hope they were responding to, that they were feeling the search for balance, and they were understanding my language or
Mhm.
whatever. Um, and so that has just been incredibly powerful for me. Just feeling like, as you said, the world is so crazy and divisive and everything right now, and I feel like this is what I can do. you
Right.
know, I
Yes,
feel like
yes.
sometimes we feel so powerless, and I feel like this is something I can do. And so if I touch one person or I help somebody on one day,
Mhm.
who's just scrolling through Instagram, then that feels like, a
Yeah.
wonderful thing.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that's really wonderful. I feel the same way about writing and connecting with people. And if I can make one person feel not alone or open their minds to the possibility of changing into, having like a little, as my friend would say, a pocket of peace, you know,
Mm,
um, then yeah, it's totally, it feels really good. And so here we are, like, we've been talking a lot about our roles as, um and these identities that we attach ourselves to, as artist or writer or, woman, sister, brother, whatever. And so I really feel that these roles that we play have a purpose, and we need our egos, to play in these roles. And I think that, honestly, I think that, as you've been describing, it's like you go into this soul place, when you're creating, and it's such a, I know I do when I'm writing, if I suddenly am able to stop, like, thinking, in a sense, it's almost like I stop
right,
thinking,
right,
and it just comes out, and it makes so much sense, and I feel this rush of adrenaline in my body that's making me just keep going and keep going, and just that trust of self, is, I think, is very challenging to have in a world where we're playing all these roles of expectations, that everybody else places upon us. I mean, actually, I think it might have been Jung that said something about, we're our purest selves by through age 8. And then when we turn 8, we become we play our roles as, a child of a parents, of son or daughter, and all of a sudden we start our truest self starts to chip away. And I know we're not supposed to have goals when we meditate or when we have a spiritual life, but I mean, honestly, like, my goal is just to keep chipping away at my ego and these roles, because I just want to live the purest self, like, of my soul and my most authentic self that I can. And even that in itself is an egoic trip to think that I want to get to
right.
do that. So it's really, yeah, so I just, that's why I love Buddhism, and in terms of, like, just exploring all that.
Right. Right. Yeah, I think I agree wholeheartedly. I feel like that is my goal too, is to kind of, pare it down to what is most essential or what is most true. Um,
Right.
yeah. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's funny. I mean, when you were talking about the synchronicity, it's like now I do feel like that. I feel like once when you sort of find an area that excites you or interests you, I do feel like the information just comes from the universe. Like you walk into a bookstore and there's the book, or
Right.
somebody says, "Oh, have you seen this film?" or "Have you read this article?" Or yeah, it's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, and I also have noticed that, when I'm, not so wrapped up in fear, and sometimes I don't even realize that I'm, like, operating from a fear mindset. When I let go of that, the right people start showing up, like yourself. Just the fact that you said yes, is really amazing to me. That, yeah, I don't know, just like weird stuff happens in terms of, uh, so for instance, I did recently shed, part of my, one of my identities of being really tied to my spiritual community. It was so much part of who I was for like 10 years, and it still is, but I've realized that it's not, I don't need it as much anymore. I don't need to identify with my spiritual community as like part of so much of who I am. It's already in me. I need the people, and we need community, but it's not like I need to wear the badge of it, in a
Right.
sense. And now as I lean into more of the writer creator of myself and doing these kinds of, things, it's a whole new world is opening up. So it's just, I think it's really important, if people want to go on the journey, to realize that life just starts happening for us instead of to us.
Right. Right. but I feel like that's, that's the gift of the universe in my
Right,
mind.
right.
That really is it. And I feel like that's available to all of us.
Yeah.
Uh, and, it brings tears to my eyes. It's very, um, very deeply important to me, that belief that the universe, I guess I believe ultimately that we all have everything that we need, and
Yes.
that it is maybe sometimes just being open to what the universe, God, however you see that force,
Mhm.
what it has to offer you. Because I I feel like, what we need and what we want is it's there, and that
Yes.
it's um given with no strings. You know what I mean?
I
It's just
know,
freely,
yes.
freely available if we can find a way to tap into it.
Yes, and it's such a practice, and yeah, it's that unconditional love, yeah, that is such a base of something that I keep leaning into, and realizing that it's always available, and such a practice because we're just faced with so much, we live in a world of they want us to be in fear and need, all the things. And
Right, right.
so what tell me a little bit about, what is inspiring you right now in this moment? Are there particular artists that you lean into, or is there something in particular that's inspiring you right now for your work?
Well, honestly, I'm doing, I feel like, personal work again in my life, where I feel like I'm doing the last house cleaning, as I age. I feel like
Yeah.
I'm kind of bound to um, the root fears and the root, I don't even know what you would call it, psychological hangups or whatever. But
Yeah.
I feel very much devoted to shedding the idea that I'm not enough. I don't know
Yeah.
about you, but I
Yeah.
feel like all throughout my life, that I'm not good enough
Mhm.
thing has been there forever. And I feel like I'm really done. I don't want to feel like
Yes.
that anymore. And so I
Yes.
feel like that's what interests me right now,
Beautiful.
is how do we let go of all of that deep, deep, uh, feeling that we're not deserving of what the universe has to offer. I guess that's the thing, is that,
Yeah.
all of us can have it.
Yes.
It's just a matter of digging through the
The
muck
bu
to get there.
Yeah.
It's like the lotus flower in Buddhism, you have to
Right.
have your mud in some ways.
Yeah, there's something so yeah, absolutely what you say resonates with me in terms of it's finally like yeah, I don't know why that the I guess the lotus flower, the onion, the yellow onion just keeps coming up for me of just like we keep peeling back the layers into the core of the truth of all human beings is that we are enough and everything is readily available to us. We just have to let go of this tight gripping of not being enough. And it's again, it's like you have to practice in order to, peel back that layer to, you know, peel back that petal. And I think that's something that comes with the wisdom of aging. It's the wisdom comes up. It's like that voice deep within, the small voice within, as the Quakers are so good at, exploring is so much truth. And it's yeah, and that's the beauty of life. Yeah, I'm in my 50s and it's starting to happen and I just think life is getting better. And it's really I'm not reacting as much to things as I used to and allowing people to be in their own reactivity and more, and observing and active listening is coming easier as well. But again, it's a practice.
Yeah, yeah. I think all of it is a practice, and that, I think you can start anytime,
Yes,
you know,
yes, absolutely.
walking that path. Just,
Beautiful. I
yeah.
love that. So tell me, who are some of your favorite artists or influencers?
Who are my favorite artists? Well, obviously, many, many people tell me my work looks very much like Hilma af Klint.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
and so her work very much resonates with me. I think it's so interesting that uh, when she made that work, she knew that the world wasn't ready for it. Um,
Yes.
so I find that absolutely fascinating. And the fact that her work was just sort of held back and now is just everywhere. Um, so her work, other transcendentalists, Agnes Pelton. Um, I also am very influenced by the surrealists by
Mhm.
Jung,
Mhm.
um, Victor Bronner,
Mhm.
different contemporary artists. There are a lot of uh, wonderful artists. I'm gonna blank on everyone's name right now. There's a woman named Zen Ping, whose
Uh-huh.
work is absolutely beautiful. Zoe McGuire, her work is really beautiful.
Nice.
And there's someone in New York, and I can't think of her name right now.
Yeah.
Also very, very well
Wonderful.
known. Anyway, I'm sorry, I can't think of her
Yeah.
name.
No, I love it. I have to say I came to your work because I went to an Agnes Pelton art exhibit here in Palm Springs at the museum. And it opened, it was really, things come to you at the right time. I moved to the desert from the Bay Area, and the desert is so healing and magical. And then the first art exhibit that I see is Agnes's, and she is local to the area, or was local to the area. And also, like, Hilma that you were mentioning, like, just was not, um, seen in her time period. So it really was interesting to like get it. As soon as I saw her work, and it's the same that I felt about yours, I just felt like something heard me and my soul. Like I just had this connection of so much truth. It was almost like there was this visualization that I had deep within, but I didn't have the vision, like when you don't have the words, it's like
Right.
it's just there. And it was like validating. It was wild. I just yeah, it's very validating, I guess is the only way I can describe it, to put words to the feeling that I felt when I saw her paintings.
I felt the same way. I mean, I find it amazing that I learned about both of those artists on Instagram. I mean, I literally did not ever know about them. I feel like there are so many women who are working with spiritual ideas who
Hmm.
have just been passed over. I mean, even when I was in school, um, in the late 90s and the early 2000s, the new age in California was very much alive and well, but I
Yeah.
would not say that anyone was interested in it in any kind of art form. It was
Yeah,
not,
right, right.
no one was looking at it, no one was interested in that. And I find it so fascinating that these works are all coming up now, that people are looking for
Right,
this. Yeah.
right. I know, isn't that crazy? I just got goosebumps when you said that, because it is so true. It's I think people are being, I don't know, people might say things like, "Oh, the veil is thinner and the world is, it's the Kali Yuga, it's the shedding of, darkness, it's our ego like getting so intense that it's going to, you know, begin to explode, and we're in this explosion phase of rebirth." And people are realizing like, "Oh my gosh, there has to be more to life than this, than all of this strife." And finally, and we it's so weird because we live in such a Christian, country, and it's something that I can't it's like it's the spirituality, the soul that's missing. I can't stand how, it's how religion creates an us versus them and a righteousness when we're all the same. And
Yeah.
it just and I think that people are starting to realize that we have a choice right now. We have a really big choice, and you can either like spiral down into the darkness and the fear and the hate and the war, or you can, live in a world of possibility and light, and be connected to the divine in a very powerful way. So, yeah,
Yes. And I agree. I think it's totally a matter of choice.
yeah, yeah,
It is our choice, and it's an important choice right now,
yeah.
more than ever. Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you find time for self-care while you're producing all of this amazing work? Like, do you consider
Um,
the work you do as self-care, or
I
do you do
do
something
in some way.
else? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I do. I do other self-care things. I love to do yoga, and
Hmm.
I do Tai Chi, and
Nice.
um, but those are very physical practices for
Hmm.
me. Um,
Yeah.
but
That's
I
great.
think just breathing, I think breathing all by itself is very powerful. So just
Yeah.
moving and breathing, or moving and breathing, all very,
Wonderful.
yeah.
Yeah. Do you teach any other people in your art or in any other practices or?
Interesting that you would ask. I'm going to offer a class in Asheville in the spring, about using artwork to set your intention. So that's
Beautiful.
totally new. It's similar to what you were saying. It's like once you kind of make a decision to do it, then I don't know, all the opportunities just sort of presented themselves to me. Um, so I'm really looking forward to doing that. I have never taught before,
Uh-huh.
and it'll
That's
be interesting
exciting.
to see. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if there's a desire, if people are interested in taking a class like that, and
Oh, yes. I
what
mean,
happens.
yeah, Asheville is definitely the place to do it. I've always wanted to visit there. I know there's a really nice artist yogi kind of community there.
Yeah, yeah.
So it would be, yeah, I would love to, when you have the link, share it with me, and so I
Oh,
can
great! I will.
put it up. I can put it in the comments of the chat where this is going to reside. And, where's the best place for people to, find you and your art? Would it be Instagram, or maybe you can name your website too?
Yes, I would say my big goal this year is to update my website and to make that a more complete and true picture of me. But
Mhm.
I would say right now, Instagram is where you're going to see the most current work.
Yeah,
And, and sort of all of it is there,
cool,
folded.
yeah.
Yeah.
I noticed that as well. Yeah, I love that. That's wonderful. Well, yeah, well, thank you so much for being with me here today, Virginia. I'm so grateful for our connection and time together. And so everybody listening, just check out the links below in the video, and like, share, subscribe, and do all the things. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Shelley. Appreciate your asking me.
Absolutely.